guys, it's Sam, and these are the worst books that I read in 2023. I'm filming this early, like end of the first week of December, so this is me being very hopeful that I won't read anything super bad for the rest of the year, and I don't think that I will. I'm very hopeful about that. If anything at this point, I would just DNF anything I'm not enjoying. And thankfully this year really wasn't very bad. I have, most of these are 2 stars. There's only 6 of them. And I DNF'd a lot of things that just like weren't for me. Not a lot. I think I DNF'd like 8 things total. And I'm not including DNFs in this list. There's one that I am. But most of my DNFs were just like not for me, just not feeling it. I don't think they're horrible books though, but I'm just not going to push through and read it. These are the books that I had like a bad time with. Number 1 is the only DNF that I'm going to talk about. And these are not in any order. I'm not ranking them. They're just like in the order that I read them. And thankfully I didn't start reading any like bad books, which is again books in like the 2-star range and below, until like halfway through the year. So not bad for me. But this one DNF book I want to talk about is Luminaries by Susan Dennard. I think I've been talking about this a lot. Well, not like a lot, but I've mentioned this a number of times in a way that I don't tend to mention DNFs because this should have been everything that I would have loved. Yes, it's a YA story. I can still enjoy YA. YA can still be enjoyable. This was not. This is her first book in a series that she sort of like wrote, like group wrote on Twitter, where she made sort of like a choose your own adventure and then took that story and like edited it a bit and whatever and like changed some things I think and made it flow more and turn it into like this book series. I was not involved with that. I did not find that to be like a fun project I wanted to be involved in, but this does involve like a town living near a forest that comes alive and you have to kill monsters in it, and this cover is like something I would hang in my wall, and like I love a sentient woods, right? But I think I got maybe 100 pages into this, and sorry, I'm still a little grungy, I'm still recovering from that cold that I had, but this was like bad. And like bad in the writing, bad in the world building. Like it was so simple in a way that like people have said like it's a YA, it's not supposed to be complex. Her Witchland series is a YA series and is like next level perfect. Like so good, well written, complex, great world building, great characters. This was so flat and like felt very juvenile in a way that I don't think YA books need to. And I was very surprised. The world building is one of those worlds that just like doesn't make a ton of sense and everything is capitalized. And I just like hate when like just things are like, you know, I don't even remember what the words were anymore because it was back in like the summer, but it was like the order and the whatever Wednesday. Oh, that was a thing. There was like not clan. It wasn't like a clan, but like order names for like these people that go out and like hunt in the woods to like keep off the bad things, right? And everyone shared a last name for the day that they go out patrolling, and they're not related. They're just all the Wednesdays because that's the group that goes out on Wednesdays. I hate it. Our main character just made a lot of like dumb impulsive decisions, and I love an impulsive young adult girly, but like this was insufferable, and just like the little bits of it that I remember are just like so grating to me that I was like, this is gonna be a 1 star if I finish it. So I put it aside. But like, oof, this was one that I so expected to enjoy and so didn't. So it was very jarring. Where some of these other ones on here, I kind of like was on the fence or like giving it a shot and I didn't enjoy it. This was like very upsetting to me. Speaking of things that I tried and didn't enjoy, which I wasn't super shocked about, but Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This was bad when I read it, and it has not stayed at all in my feelings or improved at all over time. A lot of people have talked about this, so I'm not going to go into like detail about what the synopsis or anything is with this. It's a dragon book. This is poor writing quality. I think I got through it mostly because like the audiobook covers up some of its flaws. Like I think the flaws in the writing structure and stuff that other people have pointed out, I didn't see because I was listening to it. And I got the edited audiobook where the narrator wasn't sick, because apparently that was a thing. But this had ridiculous world building that did not make sense. The dragons were kind of fun, but some even the dragon lore stuff was like, what? But most of my problems were with like the military college that like encourages them to sort of kill each other in like a Hunger Games-y type setting, but like they shouldn't because they need people. Like that is nonsensical of just like, it's divergent with dragons a little bit. Like they're in Dauntless, which also like kind of makes no sense. Like it is nonsensical. And of course our main character is the girl that gets like everything works for her and she ends up being like super powerful and whatever, but for like no Like why? And then there's an enemies to lovers romance, but it's not at all slow burn, and like they do get together in the first book in a way that like again doesn't make a ton of sense, and like I can see how people read it for like a cotton candy thing, and if you liked it, whatever, like it's fine. If you liked any of these books, like it's fine. You don't need to like defend them to me. Like I don't care. But this was like bad, and then like the spicy stuff happens, and it's like so cringy and like poorly written. Not to mention all the things that have come out about Rebecca Yarros since this book came out, and like Iron Flame apparently being very bad, which is the second book. Yeah, this was bad. This was poor. The fact that people have tattoos for this book, an unfinished series, stronger than me. That's a risk I would never take. Speaking of series, I also attempted the Vampire Academy this year. I read the first book, so the first book is what I'm going to talk about. I DNF'd the second book. I talked about this a little bit on TikTok this year. These are bad, guys. And so many people acknowledge that they're bad, but they're just very nostalgic for them. Fair. A lot of people, which is why I continue with the second book, were like, you have to keep reading, it gets better. No. Or they're like, oh, the spin-off series gets better. I'm not reading like a 6-book series to get to the spin-off series, which I highly doubt gets any better. You are just in your nostalgia feelings. This is so of its time. Very YA, which is fine. Very of its time. That shit happens. Rose is like insufferable to be in her head. A lot of the world building again like doesn't make sense. Like nothing happens. This is sort of like The Selection, because it's of a similar time period, right? Where nothing happens and you're stuck in an insufferable person's head, and then all the action gets packed in at the very end, and also all the adults are like dumb, and so she's having to do stuff, and she's like 15 or 16. She's not like other girls. It's insufferable. There's a really gross age gap that is acknowledged but then not, and like weird power dynamics. Yeah, it's just bad. And the second book started to be just like a repeat of the first, and I was like, I cannot do this again. So I gave up on it, and I will never return. And if you're really into the Vampire Academy, I'm so happy for you. I could never. I won't. I refuse. This was a bad time. Then The Spare Man by Mary Robinette Kowal. This I read for the Hugos and did not love. Mostly because this is a sci-fi mystery story. And the conclusion to the mystery, like it kept me reading because I was going to read it for the Hugos. And then like, it's a mystery. You want to keep reading. The mystery element is something that you could not have figured out on your own, which I fucking hate about mysteries if they ever do that. Like it becomes this like sci-fi twist of like you would have never known that this is a potential thing that could happen because it was not foreshadowed at all. And so here's how this all happened. And it's like, no. The fun of mysteries is if you can kind of figure it out yourself. And like if you have the skill as a writer to drop in clues without us fully figuring it out, like don't give me this crap about like an ending that's very like Deus Ex Machina. Like no. And then you're following like a really wealthy heiress who throws her wealth around and like tries to acknowledge it but really doesn't. And it's just kind of gross. And she has a service dog, and it's used like very improperly all the time, which they sort of acknowledge but don't. It wasn't fun. I didn't like it. Also, another mystery that was not a hit for me is Hare House by Sally Hinchcliffe, I think is the author. This was a book I picked up in Scotland when I was there last year, and I thought I was really going to like it. It's sort of like a gothic horror-y kind of thing, and there's this it's like a very slow-moving story about this woman who goes and lives in like, I don't think it's the Highlands, but it's like rural Scotland. And she befriends this family, and there's like creepy stuff happening to them. And like, maybe it's witches, maybe it's the neighbor who's like maybe a witch and whatever. But again, similar to the Spare Man situation, nothing actually gets solved in that one. Like and I can do a like very vague and conclusive ending. This is like a nothing ending. Like it's like, what? Why did I read that? Nothing happened. Nothing was solved. Was it supernatural? Was it normal? Was it mental health? I don't know. And it's not like in the very cool, like you can kind of piece it together yourself and you decide. Like I'm fine with that. No, it was just nothing. And that's annoying. And finally, we have Ogres by Adrian Tchaikovsky, another Hugo read, which is upsetting to me. But this is the novella. I talked about it recently, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. But this was just like kind of poorly executed in my opinion, which is why I'm like, why was this nominated for a Hugo? But it was giving very much like Red Rising, but worse. And it was just very like flat and not doing anything new with that like sort of revolution post-apocalyptic-y genre with ogres that aren't even actually ogres. Yeah, I didn't enjoy this either, but I've talked about it a lot lately, so I'm not going to go into it. But yeah, those are all the books that I didn't like this year. Like I said, I had a number of DNFs as well, but most of those are just didn't resonate with me. But if you really want to hear about my DNFs, I guess I'd be willing to talk about them for Vlogmas, so comment below and let me know. But also let me know what the worst books of this year for you are as well, the books that you read this year. And again, like I said, if any of these are your favorites, like that's fine. I don't care. Like these were a bad reading experience for me. So thank you all for watching and I'll see all you guys soon. Bye.